Stephen Harper says the opposition is running a smear campaign against his party, saying complaints of fraudulent phone calls just now coming to light are simply being made up. But so far, Elections Canada hasn't come to that conclusion. We already know it's investigating allegations of misleading calls in Guelph, Ontario. And tonight, CBC News has learned the investigation is expanding. Terry Malewski starts us off with the latest developments tonight. Terry.
Well, Peter, if it is all smears, there are a lot of people doing the smearing. Plus, with all of those bogus election calls from the so-called Pierre Poutine, the scandal now has a catchy name to conjure with.
We want to know where's the Poutine.
Mr. Speaker, they've got to do better than hiding behind the excuses of Pierre Poutine.
But the government says it's an innocent victim, and it defies the opposition to prove its case.
Otherwise, I think we just conclude this is simply a smear campaign without any basis.
We've got the gun sitting here, and we've got this plume of smoke hanging over the gun, but the Conservative says there's no proof that the smoke is in any way related to the gun.
But the government's line never changed.
This is an unsubstantiated smear campaign led by the opposition parties.
These are smears that have appeared out of nowhere. This is a typical Liberal tactic. Where's the beef? Where's the proof?
Smear campaign, unsubstantiated, a completely unsubstantiated smear campaign.
Still, for a week now, the complaints have been pouring in from coast to coast.
It's a low-down scheme to take their right to vote away.
Voters in Saanich Gulf Islands received fake phone calls claiming to be from Elections Canada, telling people their polling stations had moved.
The stories come from candidates and voters.
I mentioned to my spouse that there was probably something very fishy and that it was probably some sort of illegal activity.
In North Bay, Liberal Anthony Rota lost by just 18 votes.
Countries from around the world come to Canada and ask us to monitor their elections. They ask us to set up their elections. And suddenly, we can't run an election, an honest election in our own country.
I find it very, very distasteful. It's incredible that in a modern democracy that you could have that kind of thuggery.
Ce sont juste des histoires fabriquées.
The Prime Minister calls them all fabricated stories. But tonight, CBC News has learned that Elections Canada is set to interview staff at RMG, a phone marketing company that's extensively used by the Conservatives. That doesn't mean they'll find anything amiss, but having official investigators poking around is not exactly good news for the government, Peter.
Terry's outside the House of Commons in Ottawa tonight. Thanks, Terry.